I was recently reflecting on Jesus' childhood, what it was like for him to grow up in a family like all of us. And the thing is, we don't really know a lot about his childhood. We have these references to his brothers and sisters in the Gospels, and we also have these fan fiction accounts that come from the early church that was speculating about what his childhood was like. And I think it's just interesting to reflect on the fact that even the early Christian community was riffing on these ideas, wondering about what Jesus' childhood was like, imagining what it would be like to grow up the Messiah, and wondering how that impacted who he became over time. And we should start probably with this question: what do we actually know about Jesus' childhood? The answer is, unfortunately, not much. We do have some fan fiction, though. There is the Infancy Gospel of Thomas, written somewhere in the mid to late 2nd century, still pretty early, that's somewhere in the late 100s. But it's fun to know that the early Christians were wondering about these same questions. What was Jesus' childhood like? And they had a little fun speculating about it. Some good stories there. There's a story about how Jesus, as a young child, makes some clay pigeons and then makes them come to life and fly away. That's a nice story. There's a story about Jesus getting mad at a couple neighborhood kids and cursing them to death and then making their parents blind. That's not as great a story. Thankfully, he does get in trouble for that one, and he undoes all the damage, including resurrecting his childhood nemesis. So thank you, Mary and Joseph, for being good parents. In general, though, the Infancy Gospel has a lot of childhood hijinks, including at one point healing his brother, James, from a snake bite. Now that's nice, but at the same time, maybe we shouldn't take these infancy stories all too seriously as a source for James' bona fides. There is, however, some detail that we can piece together from the actual Gospels. And actually, both Mark and Matthew record a story when people are asking about Jesus, and they say this. They say, look, isn't this the carpenter? Isn't this Mary's son, the brother of James, Joseph, Judas, and Simon? Aren't his sisters here with us now? From that, we can surmise that Jesus was one of at least 7 kids. He's got 4 named brothers and at least 2 sisters, and one of those brothers was named James. We also have a reference from Paul, who writes about his time in Jerusalem and says that he saw none of the other apostles, only James, the brother of Jesus. So we know Jesus had siblings. We know one of them was named James. We know at one point they didn't really buy into what Jesus was saying about himself. And we know that by the time Paul comes around and encounters Jesus, at least one of those brothers, James, has become an important figure within the early Jesus community. Hey, look, if you made it through that video, thanks. Really appreciate the click and the time that you've given us to listen to some of the things that we're reflecting on here in the community. If you're interested in more of the work that Commons is doing, by all means, subscribe to the page, give us a like, throw a comment down below, but also check out our Discord, where we're inviting the community to have all kinds of different conversations about what it means to follow Jesus here in the modern world.